mic is muted. Where is it? Where is it? Is it good? We got me? We're good. Okay. Hi, everybody. Peter Greenberg here with you for our Facebook Global Travel Live update. Coming to you today on this second Thursday of March 2022 from the Torrance Historical Society in Torrance, California. A very cool museum in a very cool city that most people fly over on the way to LA and never actually see. Behind me, of course, is a beautiful display of their original fire department here. So, of course, I'm feeling right at home. Of course, you can email me your thoughts today, peter@petergreenberg.com, or do it right here on the screen, and we'll answer your questions. We have so much to talk about. Most of it not happy news, of course, about what's going on in Ukraine. And it's no longer the ripple effect. It's cascading on a global on a global basis. Think about this. 60% of the airspace around the world is essentially cut off. To Asia, to Northern Europe, to Southern Asia, and of course through Europe. So it's not just over the Ukraine, it's everywhere. Every country that's bordering on Russia is having a problem, economically as well as logistically. The supply chain's been disrupted on every level, whether it's cargo flights or shipping, and that's not getting any better. The rerouting, we've had the great migration this year, we've had the great resignation, now we have the great rerouting, and that's not working out too well because the logistics involved are sometimes untenable, and it's not getting any better. And when you add the economic impact of Visa and MasterCard and American Express basically shutting down their payment system in Russia, or for anybody carrying a Russian-issued credit card, you can understand the disruption there. It reminds me from a completely different perspective of what happened after 9/11. After 9/11, when the airspace was essentially shut down for 5 days and everything was grounded, a little known thing happened. And you may remember, some of you may be old enough to remember that before 9/11, if I lived in California and I wrote you a check on a California bank and you lived in New York, there was something called the float. You could deposit that check, but it probably wouldn't clear in my account for 4 or 5 days. And a lot of businesses really operated on the float. Well, guess what happened on 9/11? Everything shut down, which meant that the physical checks were no longer being transported back to their banks to be cleared. And after 4 or 5 days, the reason why the airlines started flying again wasn't because it suddenly got safer to fly. It was because banks were on the verge of insolvency because nothing was clearing. Well, they finally got that settled, but then they worked to do it electronically, which is why now checks clear almost instantaneously and there's no float. Well, right now, what's going on in Russia with their banking system is back to 9/11 with everything being frozen, and nothing's clearing. How long can you sustain that and still be in business and even put food on the table? That's what's going to be interesting. Now, how does that affect travel? It affects travel in a big way. Even before the Ukraine situation, we had airlines in this country realizing they were understaffed and overscheduled. They had a pilot shortage as well. They started canceling routes. Think about this. Last year, American canceled 27 routes at the end of the year. Delta canceled 10. Last week, about 10 days ago, United canceled 17 different flights to secondary and tertiary cities. So we're seeing a contraction here in the marketplace, which means, of course, in the law of supply and demand, regardless of what we're going to talk about with fuel prices, that's coming up, it's going to get more expensive to fly. Already we were seeing airfares going up between 7 and 8% every 10 days. That was because of this contraction coupled with demand, which was growing, right? Everybody getting ready for their spring break or summer trips. Now we throw the big wrench into the system with fuel prices, right? With oil above $100 a barrel for the first time in 10 years, fuel prices literally skyrocketing. I'm in California, as you know. Yesterday, I filled my tank. It was $6.09 a gallon and going up, right? Same thing's happening with the airlines. Jet fuel is going up. Who's going to be able to sustain that without passing those costs on to us? The answer is nobody. Airlines update their ticket prices in their computers at a rate of about 200,000 a day. So they can pivot quickly here. And what this means is you have to pivot quickly. If you're planning your summer trips, do it now. Those airfares are only going to get higher and higher and higher. But it's not just airfares, it's hotel rates, it's rental car rates, it's cruise ship rates. Why? Because the cost of doing business just went up. We already had an inflationary trend coupled with the cost of doing business, fueled, if you'll pardon the pun, by high fuel prices. So it's all coming together in another perfect storm. You know, I mean, the Ukraine situation took COVID off the front page, but the impact is even going to be more severe than COVID did on world economies when it comes to travel and tourism. Now, having said that, let's take a look at the map. You know that if history is any indication, Putin, and I'm a betting man on this one, is not going to cross the line into any NATO countries. That's sort of like the third rail here in the metrics and in the dynamics here. So if that's the case, let's go back and look at a map. Does this mean that with everything going on, you should not go to Paris or Rome or London or Madrid? Does it mean you shouldn't go to Helsinki or Stockholm? The bottom line here is about taking a calculated risk and protecting yourself. Right now, if I were to get on a plane and go to France, I'd have a great time. You know why? Not many Americans there. That's not how I define a great time. Depends on the kind of Americans. But you see what I'm saying. The odds are in your favor there to roll the dice if you do something responsibly, such as fly on a U.S. carrier. That way, if you have to cancel your flight, you're not going to lose your money. Number two, negotiate in advance with the other providers you're dealing with, whether it's a hotel or resort or tour operator, so you know what your refund rights are should you have to cancel. Make sure you get that in writing, right? Always pay with a credit card. And then have a plan B. We talked about this during the pandemic, trip stacking. Everybody remember that? Where you have multiple reservations to multiple destinations, all paid with a credit card, all used U.S. carriers, so that if you had to cancel, you were not financially penalized and you kept your options open. That's how people were playing the game. They're doing it exactly the same now. Those are the smart travelers doing that. But the bottom line is we're watching a human tragedy now. We could not ignore it. There are ways that you can help. If you go to my website, petergreenberg.com, we'll give you the names of the aid and relief organizations, whether it's AmeriCares or OpUSA and many others that are over there helping right now and getting things to people who need them. You know, we're talking, nearly 2 million refugees, most of them women and children, who may never be able to go back home. And right now they only left with what they could carry on their back. This is so reminiscent of those terrible black and white images of 1939, 1940, and 1941 in places like Poland and Germany. So there's a way you can help. It's immediate relief. Look at the Airbnb story. Did anybody follow that this week? How many people were booking, sort of like ghost bookings, right? Booking Airbnbs in Ukraine and sending their money, knowing they were never going to stay there, but they wanted to support the people who were living there. That was brilliant. We're talking, a lot of people did that. I thought it was great. There are other creative ways we can do to help. But again, go to our website, petergreenberg.com. We'll give you the list of those aid and relief organizations. They need your help now. And, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now let's talk about fuel. The big problem right now is, you may remember when fuel prices were about to go up a couple of years ago, some airlines decided to get brilliant about it. They took a gamble, a big gamble. They hedged their fuel purchasing. They did so betting that fuel prices were going to go up. The airline that did that and did it brilliantly, easy to say after the fact, of course, is Southwest Airlines. So when fuel went skyrocketing, they were still buying their fuel at lower prices. They protected themselves, and they were able to have a profitable year when nobody else did. Another airline, you may remember what Delta did, and they thought this was strategic. I get the idea behind it. Didn't quite work out that well. They actually went out and bought their own refinery. And the cost of production for them at that level far outweighed what the benefits they were going to get. But it was a nice idea while it lasted. So is anybody hedging their fuel bets now? No, they can't. Because the only way we hope fuel is going to go now is down, not up. So nobody's hedging their bets. They're paying for it at the same price that you and I are paying for it, and they're going to pass it on to you. How are they going to do that? Well, I talked to David Neilman, who's the CEO of Breeze. You may remember David. He started JetBlue. Brilliant guy. And what is he doing in the midst of all this? Just the opposite. He announced 10 new routes yesterday. Think about that. In the midst of all this, 10 new routes. Routes like Providence, Rhode Island to LA, or Alabama to Las Vegas. Routes that are not being served by any other airline. They're not going through any major hub. They're nonstop flights. And the fares are like $39 or $49. So how does he adjust to the fact that fuel just went up? Well, his calculus is he's going to have to charge us, you and me, $5 per hour per flight as an additional charge to sustain what he's going to have to pay to get his planes in the air. Now, can airlines that have higher cost structures, like American, United, and Delta, be able to match that fare, even with his additional $5 per hour per passenger, and make any money? That's a rhetorical question. The answer is a resounding no, they can't. But they're going to try to match it, because we're back to this terrible cycle where airlines that were built on a business model are now trying to be low-cost carriers. And they're not, and they can't be, right? So for the moment, it's a buyer's market for us. In the long term, there could be some casualties in the second and third quarter reports, because there's just no way they're going to make any money. Just when they thought they were going to catch a break, they didn't. So keep that in mind. So if you're sitting here looking at me right now, and then you're going to go look at your computer afterwards and making your plans for your spring or summer trips, do it today. Remember, airline prices in the last week have gone up 20%. Think about that. They were already going up 7% every 10 days. They're going to go up even further, right? Because it's not just one thing. It's not just supply and demand of interest. It's supply and demand and price of fuel. It's staffing. It's, trying to figure out your route network. All of that plays into what they're going to price, and none of it's going to benefit you. Now, however, this goes back to another piece of advice I gave you a couple of weeks ago, and it still holds true today. Now, even though they thought they were going to have a great summer, a lot of airlines overseas don't think they're going to have that now. Suddenly, there's a lot of excess capacity on frequent flyer award availability. All right? It was looking like it was trending in the other direction. Now it's turned around. So check out how many miles you've got left. Think up to 330 days out. Be strategic here. Pick a place that none of your friends want to go to. You'll see them when you get home. Don't delay on your decisions, and go out there and redeem those miles at either available seats that weren't available before or available seats at lower redemption levels. For a very short window now, right? It's a narrow window. It's a win-win for you if you want to redeem your miles now. Now, again, you're not redeeming your miles for a $39 ticket on Southwest or on Breeze. You're redeeming your miles for a $1,500 ticket to Europe, Asia, Africa, South Pacific that you otherwise didn't want to spend the money for, but have the miles to redeem now. Okay? That's my advice there. Cruise ships are now starting to talk about surcharges for their passengers. Is that going to sail? It could. It's done it in the past. Is it going to have a major impact? It won't. Cruise ship passengers are intensely loyal. They're dedicated. They can't wait to get back on their ships. And to give you an idea of that, 3 days ago, Oceania, one of the cruise lines, put on sale its 180-day round-the-world voyage for 2024. Not an inexpensive ticket, as you can imagine. We're talking, well over $80,000 per person. Are you sitting down? It's sold out in 3 hours. Do we have dedicated cruise passengers there with money? Apparently we do. So that's going to be across the board. So don't look for a lot of cruise ship discounts, especially this summer, as America sort of contracts again and doesn't do a lot of overseas travel unless you're a smart traveler. Most people are not. They're going to stay home. That means reservations at national parks, get them now. They're going to get sold out. Sometimes even reservations in state parks will be at risk. And of course, we haven't talked about the bad world of rental cars. They were just about to turn the corner and get new fleet deliveries. Now we have supply chain disruptions. They may not get them in time. So rental car rates are going to stay high. But one more thing that's even worse now in the wake of these fuel prices is how they're adjusting their refueling charges should you bring your rental car back with not a full tank of gas. You know what it was 3 weeks ago? Just 3 weeks ago, it was already bad. If you brought your rental car back and they needed to refuel it, they were going to charge you $10 per gallon. You know what's going to happen next week? That's going to go up. So no matter how late you are to the airport, when you're returning the car, stop, fill it up with gas, even if it's $6 a gallon. It's a whole lot better than $12 a gallon to refuel it once you return it. All right, let's start scrolling and see what everybody has to say today. All right, Patrick says good morning. Catherine is saying good morning from San Diego, not too far from us. We're in Torrance, California. Hello from Denver, says Willie. Ann says good morning. Leaving for Europe tomorrow. I hear I don't have to have tests to go, but only to come home. Is that true? If you've been vaccinated in the Western European or the European Union countries, the answer is yes, you heard correctly. Okay. And, you know, I've said this was going to happen. It's just been announced while I'm on the air right now. I'll get more details for you later. March 18th was the deadline to make a decision on whether they're going to extend the federal mask mandates on public transportation. Looks like they have. I'll get you those dates as soon as I get the news, but I just was alerted to that literally 3 seconds ago. Patty says hello from Kentucky. And Ismail is in Arusha in Tanzania at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro. Hello, Ismail. Hello from Japan to Jew. Evelyn is saying good morning from freezing Denver. Well, you can't be that freezing. You just got Russell Wilson, for those people who follow football. Brenda says good morning from Torrance. A great town with a beautiful botanical garden. You're right. All right. Robin says hello from Williamsburg. Jill is saying looking forward to seeing you at this is a self-serving plug, but she said it. Jennifer Langley says looking forward to seeing you at the Travel and Adventure Show at the LA Convention Center this weekend. I am speaking both days if you're in the LA area, Saturday and Sunday at the Travel and Adventure Show. Check the times for the actual speaker schedule, but I know I'm speaking both days and I'm looking forward to seeing you and also answering your questions there. Terry's saying hello from Michigan. Kimberly is saying hello from Scottsdale. Okay. Colleen says thank you for mentioning Operation USA. I mention them a lot. In the interest of full disclosure, I'm also on the board. These guys do amazing relief work. They're usually the first ones in, the last ones out. They actually have a great relationship with many airlines, like United, to give them hundreds of thousands of pounds of cargo space for free so they can get needed supplies and equipment in where it's needed. They're doing that again. So by the way, their email is opusa.org. Please check them out. They've done so, and by the way, they're dedicating funds now. This is not like you're giving people money and that's going to 7 different organizations. They're dedicating specific funds now just for Ukrainian refugees. So please check them out, opusa.org. Hello from Washington. Washington State, says Sue Hennepin. Any word on masks on airplanes beyond March 18th? We just got word. I'll get more details from you before we're over today. I'm going to ask Anthony to double check that. It just happened when we went on the air. Listen to this. Sandy says Award Air, meaning frequent flyer travel, opens for Flying Blue. You know who those guys are. That's KLM. To Egypt for a March 2023 in about 10 days. The Flying Blue customer reps said I should wait until April. They said when awards first open, they are highest miles and will be more reasonable after a month in April. You know what? That far booking in advance, I think the representative's right. Wait about 30 days. Don't wait too long, but see how it settles down. Zach says greetings from Houston. Sandy still wants to know about any updates on the GEM, the Grand Egyptian Museum in November. I actually think they're going to open it. They've waited way too long now. I think they're going to do it. Okay. And she says, can't wait to see Tanzania in April. Okay, Sandy, since you mentioned it, April 21st is the premiere date, starting in Chicago. So check your local listings of our next public television special, The Royal Tour of Tanzania with the President of Tanzania. So if you're in the Chicago area, it premieres that night on WTTW, and then throughout the rest of the country from that moment on. So let us know what you think. I hope you get a chance to see it. It's a remarkable story of a remarkable woman and how she became president and what she's done in the 1 year since she's become president. It's quite amazing. Okay, here we go. Brenda says Costco has rates under $6 here in Torrance. Fine. Okay. And I'm a member of Costco, so I'll have to go check it out. But here's my problem about Costco. I'll go to fill up my car and then end up taking $7 out of things I buy. You ever go to Costco, you walk down the aisle and you go, I had no idea they sold peanut butter that big. I'll take two. I mean, you're buying for Armageddon. And then the little ladies with the crab dip, you get 6 of those. It's like you're stocking up for no reason at all. And then you come home and basically you're in the doghouse with your wife because she doesn't understand it either. I hear her. However, I do sort of like those institutional size jars of Jelly Bellies. Okay, I admit it. Okay, here we go. Gina says, hi from San Diego. I manage a travel agency in Boston on 9/11. What such a tragic time like now. Resilience is crucial. Couldn't agree more. Okay. Ted says, it will soon be 6 months since we had our third booster. Will that cause a problem traveling to Europe? It will when you get to the 270-day mark. We're going to get guidance relatively soon. I keep saying it, but I'm convinced of it from the CDC that a second booster shot is not going to hurt you. And it might be a really good idea. So check with your doctor. Remember, I'm not one. I don't play one on Facebook either. But we're going to get advice on this and guidance relatively soon because we're coming up on those milestone dates after which countries won't let you in if you haven't been given your vaccination within 270 days, aka 9 months. Some countries have made it 180 days, like Israel, that's 6 months. So you're right there on the cusp. So we'll get some guidance, hopefully from the CDC relatively soon. Okay. Willie says, I think Southwest fares are a little better with the high fuel prices because of their hedging program. No, they didn't hedge this year. And they didn't hedge last year. They hedged a long time ago. And they did great about 6 years ago. But nobody's been hedging. That's the problem we're facing now. They're all paying what we're paying, and they're going to pass that on to us. We have the information now. Well, they're saying, and we'll get this confirmed, that the mask mandate has been extended to April 18th, 1 more month. They're just kicking the can down the road, and then it will be lifted. Or not. My prediction has always been by Memorial Day, it'll be gone. They do not want a summer with masks, especially as our vaccination levels in this country continue to increase. So again, Anthony's going to check on that while we're on the air and give me an answer. But right now, it looks like April 18th is the next extension date. Maridel says, on Delta to Paris on Monday. You go, girl. Gail says, will I be at the travel show in Philadelphia or New York? I will be at the travel show in New York. That'll be next weekend. So this weekend, the 12th and the 13th, I'm at the Los Angeles Convention Center. And next weekend, the 19th and 20th, I'm at the Javits Center in New York. So please come see me. Okay. Another greetings from Tanzania. Okay. All right. Paul says, greetings from Richmond, Virginia. Glad I booked my air and lodging in advance of Ukraine. I donated through AmeriCares and Direct Relief. Someone said to book an Airbnb in Ukraine, even though I'm not going there. That's what I was just talking about. A lot of Americans have done that. What a great show of support. Seriously, talk about immediate crowdfunding on that one. Great idea. Okay, Amir says, donating to World Central Kitchen is a great way to help. You know, Jose Andres, he's my hero. I mean, this guy is amazing. What he did during the pandemic in cities like New York with all the aid workers and all the people who really needed the help, he's now doing the same thing in Ukraine. Google him if you don't know who Jose Andres is. And you know what? You can also donate to World Central Kitchen. These guys, talk about boots on the ground. They're doing it. Sandy says she did book an Airbnb in Ukraine last week, and they've donated more than $1.6 million just since last week. Way to go. Okay, we got greetings from Alexander in Switzerland, and Cindy's in New York. Valerie's in Las Vegas. Priya is in Irvine. Okay, I'm scrolling down. Hi from Miami, says Melanie. Due to go to Venice in September, but currently rule state, you must have had your vaccine booster within 6 months of visiting. That's what we're dealing with, the 180-day rule. You're going to get guidance. It's going to happen way before September, so don't cancel your trip. You'll get another booster. You'll be fine. Hello from Michigan, says Mary. And Sandy says, you're absolutely right on airlines raising fares. We were going to South Africa in September and added on Botswana last week. Our already outrageous business class trip on Delta just went up another $450 per person. I rest my case. Do not wait, guys. Fares are going up. Okay. Jack saying hello from Indiana. Sandy says, I just read in the Washington Post that they will be lifted when, Sandy? I think April 18th we just talked about. Okay. Greetings from Richmond, Virginia again. All right, Sean, thank you for your nice words. Hey, hello from Eureka Springs, Arkansas. I know Eureka Springs, Arkansas. You have a wonderful haunted hotel there, don't you? I'm not going to tell you which one. You know which one. Hello from windy Indian Wells, not too far from where we are. Felicia says, we have Christmas market plans this year. Everything's already booked and paid for. Can the airline and hotel now come back and ask for more money as a fuel surcharge? They cannot. Unless you change your date, right? Then all of a sudden, all bets are off and you're going to have to pay fare differences and surcharges. So right now, I think you're okay. Just don't touch that reservation. Okay. Are there changes to mask requirements in France and in Paris? There are. They're coming. And especially in indoor dining and other public institutions. Yep. We'll have an update on that on our website, petergreenberg.com. So check that out. And Evelyn's now confirming it's one more month on the federal mask extension. So March 18th to April 18th, and sometime around April 11th, we'll see if they kick the can down the road again. Tom says, hello from Torrance. I have plans for Paris on April 1st. Am I still going? Based on everything that I know right now, my answer would be yes. Now, obviously, I don't know your medical condition. I don't know your physical ability. I don't know the kind of fare you purchased, what the restrictions are. But as a general principle of being smart and traveling, I would not be hesitant at all to go to Paris in April. We'll be in Paris, by the way, in June, broadcasting Facebook Live. One more thing, a very important note for our radio show this weekend that's airing day after tomorrow. We're doing it as a special edition, not on the Ukraine. No, we're obviously going to continue reporting on that. But there's another anniversary that we're acknowledging, and one of the great mysteries of aviation that we'll be discussing for the entire show. It's the 8th anniversary of the disappearance of Malaysia Air Flight 370. That's right, 2014 in March. And I'll be talking to some of the great accident investigators, authors, journalists, investigative reporters on all the work that's been done in the last eight years, some of the red herrings, some of the crazy conspiracy theories, and then what some of the evidence may lead us to actually find, if we ever find anything at all. So please tune in. It's 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Check your local stations. We also stream it live. Just go to our website, petergreenberg.com, hit the radio icon, and you'll hear that show on Malaysia Air Flight 370 on the 8th anniversary of its disappearance. Obviously, we'll be updating on our newsletter, the events in Ukraine and elsewhere, but this is a show that I really wanted to do and share with you. So check it out on Saturday. It also will be a podcast. It's a special edition of Ion Travel on the disappearance of Malaysia Flight 370 back in March of 2014. Okay, Celeste wants to know, do you think the U.S. will drop testing for inbound travelers anytime soon? I actually do. You know, it's the law of reciprocity. They're dropping it left and right in Europe. It stands to reason that if you can show proof of vaccination, you may not need the test to come back. Right now, it's still on the books, though. That's that 24-hour rule. Hello from the passport office in Dallas. Finally got it renewed. Okay, Catherine. Dorothy says, I would like to rent a car in Boston, drop it in Newport, Rhode Island. Can I do this without the higher drop charge? Usually not. That's what you have to negotiate up front. You know, in the old days, that was not too long ago, you had unlimited mileage. You could drop it off anywhere in many cases. I'm talking about within the U.S. and right? Now, they're putting caps on the mileage, and there's a big drop-off fee in many cases. So double check ahead of time. The one thing you absolutely do, and I've talked about this before, but you have to do it, is take some time before you ever leave the lot. I'm talking maybe 6 minutes of your time. Get your cell phone camera out and take a shot of everything around that car, all the exterior surfaces. Note any dings, dents, scratches. Do the same thing on the inside of the car, and then take those photos back to the counter. Do yourself a favor and get the rental car agent to note that these were pre-existing before you rented the car. You do not want to return the car and then get hit with a bill of up to $4,000 for them fixing stuff that you didn't do. But one more thing you better ask before you take that car off the lot. We talked about this before. It's still a problem, especially for companies like Hertz. People are renting cars and then keeping them longer than the contract, and then returning them and paying for them. But when they see the day on the contract, Hertz automatically reports the car as stolen. And they don't get caught. They just bring it back. They pay for it. They leave. Then you go to rent the car. You're pulled over. Hertz hasn't called the police authorities to tell them the car is not stolen, and you get arrested. Not pretty. So you need to find out from that front desk at the counter, has this particular car, this license plate, this serial number been reported as stolen? If it has, please tell me in writing, give me a letter certifying that it is not stolen, and notify the authorities to that effect. Otherwise, you may be spending the night in an uncomfortable hotel. Okay. Sue wants to know, when can I get airfare for Italy in September? You can probably do that about 54 days out. I'd say, end of June, early July. Okay, here we go. I'm looking for this. Ismail is saying, I'm traveling to Spain today, staying 3 nights in Seville and 3 nights in Madrid. Any recommendations of places to visit? I do. In fact, we've done stuff in both Seville and Madrid. You can find it on our website. And there you go. All right, I'm still looking here. Let's go to our photo of the week before we run out of time here. I love this photo. It's coming up. And there it is. Recognize my friend there? We thank Diane Cisco for sending this in. It's a bison. She snapped it in Yellowstone just last week and had a magical time despite temps at night in the minus 20 degree range. Ooh, so beautiful in winter. Well, my experience in Yellowstone at this time of the year, where I also froze, involved not a bison, but a moose, and an important lesson. They have wonderfully groomed trails in Yellowstone that you can also use for snowmobiles. And I was literally crisscrossing Yellowstone by snowmobile and staying at different huts along the way. And as I was going down the snowmobile trail, in the distance, I saw the fog of coming out of the nostrils of a moose, right? And big moose, but he was way in the distance. I go, oh, look at that. Rocky and Bullwinkle, isn't that cute? And I continued to go. Well, the moose saw me, and he turned, and it's sort of like, okay, I'm looking at him, he's looking at me. He's still a good half mile away. And he starts to move. I said, isn't that interesting? And I'm moving. I'm going 35 miles an hour on a snowmobile. He's now starting to intersect me. And he's traveling at moose can be fast. The only thing that saved me at the end, he was coming to get me, is I dove the snowmobile into a snowbank and was covered with snow. And finally some other people came and dug me out as he walked away. But I could hear him hovering over me. I could hear his nostrils, right? Moose are much faster than you think. Lesson I learned. Okay. Thank you again, Diana. If you got a photograph that you think qualifies as the photo of the week, you know what to do. Send it to me at peter@petergreenberg.com. And if we like it, we'll post it. All right, let me scroll down a few more things here. Greetings from Miami from Christopher. Patty's saying, well-priced clothing at Costco. Patty, do you work at Costco? Stop that. Mary Robinson, any changes to hotel points programs? Yes, lots of them. They're going to a fare-based system as well. And it's getting very confusing. I mean, seriously confusing between Marriott Bonvoy and the Hilton program. They're going to dynamic pricing. We'll try to update some of that next week for you because it's really hard to stay on top of it because they're making it more difficult to earn and more difficult to redeem as they're coming out of the pandemic. Remember, you're dealing with hotel chains like Marriott where they have more than 100 hotels that are still technically in foreclosure. They may be up and running, but they're really in trouble financially. So the question is not whether they're going to come back. It's a question of how they're going to come back and how they're going to generate revenue or basically stem losses. And one of the ways they're going to be playing with that, as the airlines are doing, is with their frequent flyer programs or their frequent stay programs. You have to be strategic here and move quickly. All right. Here we go. Catherine says, good morning from Southern California, not too far from here, of course. We're in the South Bay. My travel agency's clients booked on several Baltic cruises are happy to go to new ports of call in Scandinavia in lieu of St. Petersburg, right? All the Russian ports of call have been taken off. I'm not surprised. Okay. Evelyn says, Jose Andres rocks. He does. Greetings from San Jose, California. It's beautiful here today. Guess what? It's beautiful here today. It's a beautiful sunny day in California. Okay. I have friends, Robin says, I have friends who are hesitant and making their 40th wedding anniversary plans to visit Italy for the very first time. How can we encourage them to go forward? Well, I thought I sort of answered that before, but I'll say it again. I truly believe that as crazy as Putin may be, and as determined as he is to control the Ukraine, I do not really think he's going to cross any NATO border. That is the third rail, folks. And so, again, if you are a strategic traveler and you want to do a calculated risk, you fly on a U.S. carrier so your money's protected if you have to cancel. You negotiate your refund rights with the travel provider, the hotel, the resort, the tour operator. And then you know what you do? Pay with a credit card and go. Obviously, you watch the situation every day, or as we do every hour, to see if there are any kind of really dramatic changes that would have a direct impact, not on your trip, but just on your health and safety as well, and then make an informed choice. But at this point, I'm not canceling any of my trips. I'm not trying to prove a point. It's what I do. I travel. But I'm not going to do it stupidly or in a vacuum. Obviously, I'm paying attention as well. But my advice is right now, they should really consider going. Okay, let's go to some of the questions you sent in. Okay. Ishmael says, if you're flying back to the U.S. from Tanzania, do you need a PCR test or a rapid test? You can do a rapid test. If they're equipped to give you a rapid test in Tanzania, most of them are really doing PCR tests, but either one will be accepted by U.S. authorities. Joseph says, will our gas prices in the U.S. really hit $10 a gallon this summer? I hope not. Look, are they going to release the strategic reserves and flood the market with lower cost fuel right now? We don't know. Are they going to basically do a holiday on federal gas taxes, which wouldn't be bad? We don't know. All of these are under consideration. We're just going to have to see. Look, it's one thing to cut off Russian oil, but talk about strange bedfellows. Can you believe we're actually in talks with the Venezuelans about selling us their oil? This is like, where did that come from? Necessity being the mother of invention. Strange bedfellows indeed. We'll be watching very carefully. Okay. Do I believe the cruise lines will impose a fuel surcharge? I think some of them will. And I think the passengers will pay them. All right. I noticed this is from D, I noticed airline prices skyrocketed, but do I think there's still hope for a last minute deal if these planes are flying more empty than they should? Yes, there is. Remember, the airlines update their ticket prices over 200,000 times every day. So they understand that the original algorithms they were using to project demand and set pricing didn't work during the pandemic, and they ain't working now. So you have to watch it very carefully every day to see the fluctuations. Look, Wall Street's a roller coaster right now, right? The market, wild fluctuations on the Dow Jones. We're seeing the same thing with air prices, but although right now they're trending upward. You know it, I know it, the airlines know it. So just watch it carefully. Okay. Willie says, where did I hear that Southwest stopped hedging? Okay. They may have limited hedging, but not to the extent they were doing years ago, right? Because their financial prudence is such that they didn't want to put all their eggs in the same basket. They got lucky a couple of years ago, really lucky. So if they're doing some fuel hedging, great, but nothing to really make a big difference yet. They would tell you that. Katrina says, hello from Alabama. Melissa, hello from Reno. Richard says, my brother and I are thinking about renting an inexpensive condo in Taiwan for a month and explore as much of that culture as we can. You know what? Do it. Now's the time to go. In fact, I actually believe that this weekend at the LA Convention Center, Taiwan will be one of the exhibitors. You might want to go check them out. Okay. Okay. Priya, thank you for that nice note. And Melissa says, I'm still heading to Bucharest 4/11. When you get there, let us know what's going on, right? I want a full report from you, Melissa. Okay. We're talking about the wedding anniversary. Yep, we talked about that. Wiser to get air from Cleveland to Calgary now or later for summer travel? When in the summer are you going? If you're going early summer, before June 15th, get it now. If you're going later in the summer, wait about 30 days. Okay? All right. Still scrolling down here. Do I have any resources for how to estimate duty taxes when you make larger purchases in particular countries? Well, I need a little more specific information on that, Celeste. What kind of purchases? Alcohol or a car? There's a wildly range of VAT that gets applied, and it's easy to book that in advance to figure out what the VAT rate is and whether or not you qualify for the refund leaving that country. Because remember, in almost every country, you're required to show evidence that you have the item. And how many of us will pack the item, have the receipts, but we check the bag, and of course the VAT office is on the other side of immigration. So it's a little bit of a dance. Angela says, I just booked a tour to Portugal for April 21st. I've noticed that the COVID rate has gone up in the last few days, which is making me concerned. Am I being paranoid? No, you're being concerned. I get it. But keep in mind, the metric here is not the vaccination or case rate there. The metric here is the vaccination rate with you. Are you vaccinated and boosted? Do you have pre-existing medical conditions? Are you immunocompromised? If you're over those humps, then you can take a calculated risk and go. Okay? Okay. I'm looking here. Okay. Joan says, what a story about a moose. Yeah, that's a true story. They are very powerful animals. He was not happy to see me. Okay. I'm looking here. Colleen says, oh, I bet the moose just wanted to welcome you to his world. Well, that's sort of like somebody in the WWF welcoming them into the world. Thank you, I'll pass. Okay, Nancy says, hello from Falls Church, Virginia, leaving for a month to England, and would be grateful for your thoughts on how much actual cash we'll need as opposed to paying for things with contactless credit card. Cash is like not necessary. Now, if you really want to do it, and I'm saying this is a qualified piece of advice, you can go get some traveler's checks. I haven't seen a lot of traveler's checks in the last 2 years, quite frankly. But carrying cash is not a good idea because you have ATM machines, otherwise known as ATMs. I'm being redundant. And that's where you want to do it, but not at the airport. Do it at the banks because you'll get the rate that they're giving their customers and not paying a high commission charge on both ends of the transaction at an airport, right? And before you leave home, see if you have a debit card with a company or with a bank or lending institution that gives you so many free transactions where you're not paying for fees at foreign ATMs. That's how you do it. So credit card, debit card, you're in. Okay. Okay. Victoria Baker. Okay, I will check that out, Victoria. Thank you. Oh, now Celeste has told me what she's purchasing. Oh my God. Diamonds from Antwerp. Well, now you know what to do. Research the VAT on diamonds. Not difficult to find out. And then you'll see what you're qualified for, what the limits might be, what your declarations might be. All right, easy to find out. All right, we're basically out of time, but I want to give you some housekeeping notes again. We'll be on top of the Ukraine situation, obviously. We'll be updating our newsletter as well. Our radio show this week, Eye on Travel, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Check your local listings. If you can't find it, go right to our website, petergreenberg.com, hit the radio icon. It streams live, the entire show, starting at about 10:05 a.m. Eastern. And remember, we're devoting this to a special edition of Eye on Travel, covering the 8th anniversary of one of the enduring mysteries in the aviation world, the disappearance of Malaysia Flight 370. I hope you'll enjoy the show and some enlightening views that we'll be sharing with some of the experts. So thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks to the folks here in Torrance for letting me visit the Historical Society. Lovely fire department display behind me. That's just the beginning. And I'll see you next week somewhere in the world. Be safe, everybody. Prepare yourself for an epic adventure through a land inhabited by peoples who cling tightly to ancient traditions, while their fellow countrymen freely embrace the marvels of modern life. It's a place that lays claim to being the cradle of all mankind, and boasts of fabled spice islands of rare beauty that reveal both a dark past and a shining example of how people of differing traditions can live together in peace and friendship. And on this trip, you'll sleep under the ocean, soar over the loftiest peak on this vast continent, float just above the reach of magnificent beasts, and descend deep underground in search of rare, precious gemstones found nowhere else on Earth. And our guide on this special journey is someone who knows this country better than most. She's explored its expansive terrain, talked to its many peoples, and championed their dreams. She's a woman who's lifted herself from humble beginnings and overcame cultural challenges to confidently lead this country onto the world stage at a critical time in its development. Her name is Samia Suluhu Hassan, and she is the president of Tanzania. So buckle up. For the next hour, we're going on an exclusive inside the security bubble trip with this sitting head of state as she shows us her country as only she can. I'm Peter Greenberg, and this is Tanzania, the Royal Tour.